Hey guys, it's Tina, and today I kind of want to cover two topics. The first one is sort of a pseudo book review for the book called Capital Gains by Chip Gaines. And the second one is to talk about career setting and a much needed career change that I am choosing to pursue. So firstly, the book that I want to talk to you about, like I said, it's Capital Gains by Chip Gaines. I'm going to hold it funny because I am trying to keep some pages straight, but this is what it looks like. I love reading a lot of self-help, sort of like personal growth, autobiography type books, and historical fiction for the most part. I'm always reading. I usually have 4 or 5 books going at once. And incidentally, this is a book that I've had going for a few months, and I had promised myself that I would finish all the books in September that I had started before September began, so that I could start some new books on my list that I really want to buy without being relentlessly teased by my husband, who thinks it's absurd how many books I have partially read. So I had purchased this book originally because I'm a fan of the Gaines family and I enjoy the show Fixer Upper. I also read Magnolia's Story. And so this is just a fun book that I had picked up with no expectation that it would give me a lot of great insight into life. And frankly, I was super wrong. Well, maybe not super wrong, because the first 2 parts of the book are exactly what I expected. Lots of really just interesting side stories about their family, Chip specifically, and just some insight into their sort of scrappy mentality and how they came into their businesses and how their relationships unfolded over the years. But then you get into part 3 of the book, and it's funny because I had set the book down at the end of part 2, and I had sort of just let it sit there for a few months, not really expecting to get a whole lot out of this book. And then I picked up part 3, and it shook me. It shook me in a good way, but also in a way where, to be honest with you, I've been a bit disappointed with myself. And I'll tell you why. So the last part of the book is really where he explains how they got into the show and how it was a true blessing for them. But he also starts to explain that the show started to feel an awful lot like a job. And for his sort of like free spirit, entrepreneurial self, it was starting to wear him out. And I would say bum him out, to be honest with you. And so, pardon me while I look down here, but there's a few things I want to read that really struck me. And the first one is this. He says, he's talking about wanting to like keep this free spirit and this passion for work. And he says, I want that for you and for me too. Don't allow yourself to get stuck grinding away on the job piece and lose sight of the work piece, the one that truly matters. So doing work that's fulfilling to you. There's nothing admirable or respectable about laying yourself down day in and day out for a job you hate, not if you have a choice. There's a little bit later, and then he goes on to say, but if you are sticking it out because of fear or passivity, there's nothing heroic about that. Do work that matters to you. This really was a smack to my face because I have been doing a job that has given me a lot of stress and anxiety for a long time, really out of fear. It's kind of almost like I was choosing to do a job because it's the lesser of 2 evils. The fear of the unknown was greater, I guess, than the fear of being stuck in a job that is completely unfulfilling to me. And so the way that he worded that, it was just like a moment of truth that I needed to hear right at that time. And like I said, it was a smack to the face. He says, vocation is a powerful thing. Don't let it just happen to you. Chase after it, even if right now chasing feels a lot like limping. Wow, this was another smack, and I'll tell you why. I mentor a lot of people. Oh, maybe not a lot, but multiple. And in many of my mentorship conversations, I have come to find out that few people really strategically pursue a career. Frequently, you get a degree and then you end up doing work that has nothing to do with what you originally studied. I know that's the case for me and for many of the people that I've spoken with. And because of that, what I often tell people is not follow what you love. What I often say is follow the opportunities, go where they take you. And that's what I did. And it brought me success. I was always saying yes to new opportunities. And because of that, I really earn a handsome income, and my responsibilities have grown steadily. And while I've never loved the work that I do, I've had interesting things happen. I mean, it's not like it's all been completely detrimental to my well-being or that it's all been miserable. It's more like I just don't get any personal satisfaction from it. I am good at it, and that feels nice, but it's not fulfilling by any means. So knowing that I'd been giving this advice to people for years, combined with the fact that while it's paid out for me, hasn't really, I guess, improved my, I keep wanting to go back to the words, hasn't been fulfilling for me. It hasn't done anything for my spirit, so to speak. Because of that, I'm starting to think like maybe I've been misleading people. I mean, I really am contemplating if I shouldn't go back to some of these mentees and start asking a different set of questions. Questions that align more closely to what Chip is saying. So a couple other things I wanted to point out. At this part of the book, he's talking about how he's starting to get frustrated by having to always be placed, like having other people dictate his schedule because of the show. And so he writes, but I was sitting there, all of a sudden, I was overwhelmed by a single thought. What am I doing here? And then a little bit later on the next page, he says, we had been driving so hard for so long, and I had this sense that if I kept my foot on the gas, we might be headed for disaster. Even the most menial tasks felt draining these days. This is me. I truly believe that so many people, myself included, will establish a momentum, and they will just keep going with that momentum. And even though they have decided it's no longer for them because they set the trajectory and because the momentum was there and the opportunities are presented to them, they feel obligated to take them. And that really is exactly what happened to me. And it just blows my mind that reading a Chip Gaines book, of all things, is what made me really, really kind of have my come to Jesus moment on all of this. He writes on another page, I learned a long time ago that if you ever consider quitting, it's already too late. When things get tough, I mean really tough, you've already quit, even if you don't know it yet. So we're not quitting the middle of the race, but we are looking ahead to the end of our run and wondering, then what? I have to agree with this. I've seen, as a manager, and I've managed, I don't know, probably maybe 50 or 60 people over the course of my career, not all at once, but you know, with like people moving on, new people coming in, and then them moving on. The truth is, I've learned that when somebody's ready to quit because they don't like the job, you never offer them more money. What you do is you figure out why they want to leave, and then you help them find a job that will be more satisfying to them. Help them find a new position that doesn't include the qualities of the current work that is unsettling or frustrating to them. And the reason for that is because if you offer them more money, that'll make them feel good, and then they'll want to stay for maybe another 6 weeks to 6 months if you're lucky. But afterwards, people get used to the new income, and then they're still stuck with the job they didn't want. So the minute you start thinking that you want to quit or that you don't like it anymore, you really ought to be looking for what's next. And while I've known this and I've applied it to people who work for me, I haven't been applying it to myself because I'm such a dependable and stalwart person, and I just haven't been doing that. And I've really been letting myself down. So with that all said, I've come to the realization that I need to move on. I need to find new work. And I've had lots of conversations with my husband about it. He's agreeable, thank God. And we're gonna make it work. I'm not rash. I never have been. It's like I just said, I'm very dependable and stalwart. So I have a plan, I have a date picked, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a few months out, but my husband and I are in agreement that when that date comes, whether I have another job already or not, I will give my notice. And that's a really big deal to me. So I don't know what the future brings, but I will tell you that the thing that I find the most gratifying is coaching people, helping people, and definitely financial management. I think that I took the Dave Ramsey coaching program sort of on a lark. I just kind of like upped and did it one day, signed up, and then went through the program in 12 weeks or so. And I've come to realize like this is what I just find super fascinating and super interesting, and I want to help people with that. So I think financial advisement is in my future, and I look forward to the opportunities that will come. But anyway, I'm sure I will record videos sort of like documenting that journey as I make it. But the bottom line is, I'm so grateful to having read this book. I'm so grateful for having picked it back up and finished that last part. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, I have set books aside and been like, yeah, it's not really for me. I don't want to waste any more energy on that. Or it's too superficial and I feel my time is precious and I don't want to finish something I started sometimes when it comes to a book. And I'm just, what a great epiphany to have when reading this, and to really have such a truly authentic expression come from Chip Gaines. Incidentally, for those of you who aren't a fan of the show, it turns out that it was in this book, it was that part 3 of this book that announced they're leaving the show. So they left it during really the height of its success. A lot of people were very surprised that they decided to part from the show at the end of season 5. And reading this now and understanding what he's saying, I'm not at all surprised, because if there's one thing, part of the reason I think that Chip and Joanna Gaines have had the success that they've had is because they are really authentic, or at least they come across as genuine and authentic. But I believe it's true. I don't believe that they're trying to mislead America into thinking they're a certain kind of people that they're not. And that authenticity came through loud and clear in this book as well. And it rattled me, forced me to get authentic with myself. So anyway, great book. Hope you guys pick it up if you're at all a fan of the Gaines. I think you'll really enjoy it. And again, here's the cover. Bye guys.